Let's talk toes. Your feet are really important in yoga, of course. They're the foundation of so many standing poses. The toes are like brakes for you. Like if you go too far forward, the tip toes stop you from falling forward. And as you spread your toes, of course, you get a wider base. In this video, we'll be doing a few moves to make sure that we've got enough spread of our toes so that we can engage our legs fully and so that we have a wider foundation so we balance better. Grab a chair, sit down, and if you have broccoli rubber bands, these wide rubber bands, grab them. If you don't have them, you can get narrower rubber bands, but get multiple ones so that you've got plenty of tension there to work with. We'll begin seated. Sit forward in your chair. On your sitz bones, you might want to even move the flesh away from your sit bones so that you can sit quite forward on the sitz bones. Lift your heels up and draw your heels down. Lift your toes up and toes down, heels up, heels down, toes up. Now work on spreading the toes. So as you spread the toes, look down, see if there's one toe that doesn't want to separate from other toes. Lift your toes up again, take them down. With the heels down, the toes lift up and down and up and down. Keep a nice spread going as you keep on moving the toes up and down. Now move over to the left side of your chair so that the right sitz bone is firmly planted. Take your left foot back so you're tucking your toes under with the left foot. Press firmly into the toe tips so that you can get nice engagement of all the muscles that support your arches of the foot. Now take your left toes further back, but press your toenails down. So now it's not dorsiflexion, it's plantar flexion. Now do the same thing. Tuck your toes under, press firmly down through the base of the toes, and use your toe tips to really clench the floor. Now reach your left foot back, way back, so you're getting a stretch to the top side of your foot. Try that one more time. With your toes tucked under, press firmly down, almost like you're trying to lift yourself up off the chair. This back leg is really engaged. Now reach back and press the toenails down. Release out of that side. Let's come to the opposite side. Move your pelvis over, reach your right foot back, tuck your right toes under, and press down through the base of the big toe especially. Spread your toes, work the toes into the floor. Now reach back and get a stretch to the whole front side of the leg there. Do that again, tuck your toes under, press down, engage the full body of the leg. Reach your right leg straight back, maybe inch it back a little bit further. And again, with your toes tucked under, press down, almost like you're trying to lift yourself off the chair, and reach back. Now take your feet in front of you and center your pelvis on the chair. Come forward on the sitz bones again. Lift your right leg up and take your right foot to the outside of the left knee. Now spread your toes. Just like the webbing between your fingers gives you a good indication of how far you're spreading your fingers. See if the webbing between your toes, you can feel a little stretch there. Now let's increase that stretch. Thread your fingers through your toes. And for some of us, just getting the fingertips between the toes is going to be quite a stretch. But see if you can get the webbing of the toes and the webbing of the fingers to work against each other. And again, this takes time, so if you can't do that, no worries. But see if you can get right down to the base of the fingers and the base of the toes. Now grab onto your foot and draw your foot and move your foot in the same way that we just did in the lunge. So first you can point the foot, and now you can draw the toes back as if they're trying to reach toward the shin bone. And now do the opposite, just move the toes to come to a pointed foot. And now flex your foot, dorsiflexion, and draw the toes back. Keep a spread on the toes, and one more time, just moving both it serves the ankle and the top of the foot nicely, and draw back. Now with the foot in essentially that center position, try to spread your fingers to get a little bit more spread between the toes. And now release your right foot down and just kind of notice how stimulated the right foot feels. Lift your right toes up, spread your toes, and just see if you can kind of keep that energetic action of the toes alive as you keep the spread of the toes and take your right foot down. Draw your left knee in now and take your left ankle to the outside of your right knee. Spread your fingers in the same way. We'll be spreading our fingers as we try to spread the toes. So weave your way, your fingers right between these toes. And again, it may take a little bit of effort to get the toes to press right down at the webbing of the fingers. So first you're pointing your foot, and now you're drawing the toes back and still trying to spread the fingers between the toes. We'll do that 2 more times. First, point the toes. Now draw the toes back. I'm going to be in boots for 2 weeks on a big hiking trip. So I'm especially thinking about taking care of my toes for balance and for comfort. So reach the toes back. That's 3 cycles. Now let's try spreading the fingers again. So spread your fingers as much as possible to get a little bit more space between the toes. Spread the toes out a little bit more. Now release your foot down. And in the same way, lift your left toes up. Base of the toes are down. Left toes are lifted up. Now take your toes down. Now lift them up again. Keep the spread. Take the toes down. So you've got a little bit more space between your toes now. If you have a rubber band, especially a broccoli rubber band or one of those bands that are really wide, place your band just to the inside of the big toes. Spread the band nicely and draw the band together. The band should be right at the toenails, so kind of toward the tip tops of the toes. Now spread all of your toes and just pull the big toes away from each other. Draw your toes back together. So your toes are lifted, your heels are down. You're spreading your toes as you try to externally rotate to take a little bit more distance between the toes. And release. Good. One more time. Spread the toes and pull as much as possible, and just kind of notice how much space you're getting there. Those of you that have big toes that are drawing in, you really want to work this action quite a bit. And release. Now take your toes down and do that same action. Just see about spreading as much as possible. Now hold it. With the rest of the toes spread, you're getting as much space as possible between the inner edges of the feet, the medial side of the foot, and release. Now take the broccoli rubber band, or rubber bands plural if you have the narrower bands, around all of your toes. So all of the toes now are being squeezed together by the rubber band. Can you try to spread against that? You're just trying to work the toes to create a spread. Not so easy. You'll notice that the whole leg gets involved in trying to work against this rubber band. So do the same on the opposite foot. You're trying to spread the toes. It's not a very gratifying exercise. And then the broccoli rubber band pulls them together. Now just try to spread again. It's not very encouraging sometimes because the rubber bands are really strong. And now draw your toes together. 2 more. Spread your toes and draw them together. 1 more. Spread and draw them together. Take your rubber bands off of your toes and just put them to the side. Now lift and spread your toes. Admire the fullness of the work that you've done with your toes, and release your toes down. And if you can go barefoot for a while to keep the toes spreading, that will be really helpful. Thank you for practicing on spreading the toes with me. Namaste.